When I first started my career as an administrator, I was fortunate enough to be called up to serve with the Texas Army National Guard and go down and help with rescue and recovery operations in New Orleans right after the hurricane. We were part of a unit called Task Force 71, which included National Guard from all over the state of Texas, and during that time we spent 4 weeks trying to help citizens of New Orleans, whether it was to provide security, to provide resources and help and assistance to rescue folks who had stayed after the hurricane. We ran operations 24 hours a day, and during that time we went out and patrolled streets. We went house to house looking for anyone that had been left behind or anyone that needed medical attention. We also did a lot of things to support just the citizens in terms of getting food and water. Our engineers were there to help clear the streets. We worked in coordination with search and rescue teams from all over the nation who came in. It took us 3 days to get there. We left from Wiley, Texas, and we drove from Wiley to Houston and then Houston to Beaumont, and then on the third day we moved into the New Orleans area with about 110 vehicles and about 150 to 200 soldiers. And it was a very sombering scene. As we came in, it was the devastation was apparent. The closer we got to New Orleans, you could see entire homes underwater. There were cars that were flooded. We actually found boats that were up exit ramps trying to escape. Trees were downed everywhere. And also what was really just eye-opening was that there was no electricity, and so you had this huge metropolitan city with no lights, and it was pitch black. And it was just something that you're not accustomed to doing when you roll into a big city. It's bright and festive, and the fact that it was covered in water, it was just eerily silent, and there was just no light anywhere. And also, another thing that took time for us to adapt to was there, of course, with all the decaying plants and other things, that it really had a strong odor that took a few days to get used to as we began running rescue and recovery mission to help citizens of New Orleans. My job was to help coordinate and communicate with soldiers that were on the ground. Part of what I did was to make sure that our soldiers were being well taken care of, food, water, etc. We also were part of the rescue missions, going deep into the neighborhoods that hadn't been looked into yet, and knocking on doors, going building to building, seeing if anyone needed aid, see if anyone was left behind. And in that case, multiple times we found people who had been trapped in their home for 10 or 12 days before we arrived, and our job was to help get them out and make sure that they had the proper medical care. And so our jobs changed from day to day. We ran operations 24 hours a day for 7 days a week the entire time I was there. We had a small little area where we set up our campsite and our operation area, and we ran missions 8 to 12 hours a day, and you just rotated through that on a daily basis for 4 weeks. One time my sergeant major and I were just in our Humvee, and we were just patrolling an area, and the water had gotten really deep, and the water was up over the wheel wells, but we went ahead and pressed onto this through this neighborhood, and we saw a sign on a door that said help. And so we were able to crawl on top of our Humvee and get up onto the porch, and when we knocked on the door, there was a couple that they were both doctors, and they had been stranded there for about 6 days. And so we were able to get them out of their home and get medical attention for them, but then they ended up staying and helping with the recovery efforts as well. So that was really neat to see these two people who could have gone and left actually stick around and then help us once we recovered and help them and rescue them. The other part too was just the interagency cooperation. We had fire departments that would come in and cook for us. Because we left on such short notice, I was given 8 hours notice to get packed and ready to go. When I got out of work at 4 o'clock, we were on the road by midnight that evening, and when we got down there we didn't have a lot of supplies, and so fire departments from New York, police departments, we would all get together in the evening and cook and just offer a little bit of fellowship and camaraderie, and then the next morning get up and go run operations all day. And the other thing that stood out too was how many people the first week really had a devastated look about them, but as they began to see hope and as they began to see people helping with the rescue operations and bringing back a little bit of order to the city, people were really resilient, and they were very, very friendly and very warm, and you could see that they had a lot of hope left in them when the first week or two it was a city that was really deflated by the disaster.